Hi guys, how's it going? Today I'm mostly going to be talking about reverb, as the old guys would call it, and a couple of the echoes that I'm using. Plus, because the weather is so beautiful, I'm going to take you for a little trip around Ireland as well. Woohoo! Here at Rossbeg Beach, on the far end of the Ring of Kerry, just one of those beaches that you wouldn't expect to find. Normally we would go to Inch, which is just on the Dingle side, just across the bay from here. But we decided this time to come up the Killorglin side and come to see what Rossbeg Beach looks like. And what a spot it is. This video was meant to be about how to make my own convolution reverbs, but as it turns out, most of the churches weren't open yesterday. We've come up this direction in search of other places where I can find reverb and also just the beautiful sounds of the actual ocean. So this is the Atlantic right here behind me. Going out that way towards Clair is the beginning of the northern end of the Ring of Kerry. So if you went around this way beyond those mountains in the far distance, you'd end up in Killarney on the other end. And out this way, you can see that peninsula is the peninsula that goes out towards Dingle. So straight out here, that is actually Inch Beach. And Inch is famous for being the place where Ryan's Daughter was filmed. And all along that coast, up that way, in that direction over there. So I've always had a sort of love-hate relationship with reverb. In some of my first home recordings, the recordings I did with my friend Dan Gideon, we had got ourselves a reverb and we stuck it on everything. And the reverb was the sound of things in those days. Everything was drowned in reverb, vocals, drums, you name it. I can remember clearly the first time I heard gated drums on the Phil Collins song In the Air Tonight. Boy, that was a sound that took over everything. Don't forget, in those days, everything was really produced and there was a lot of reverb on everything. And the first album that I heard that sort of went the opposite direction was Blood Sugar Sex Magic by the Chili Peppers. It sounded so dry to me, it didn't sound right. It sounded like, what are they doing? It almost sounded to me the way demos would sound. But ever since then, the sound of produced music has less and less reverb on it. Where now the only reverbs I use just until you can hear them and then back them off just a tiny bit. Now I noticed that people are starting to add a little bit more reverb into things, using it for depth. Whereas before, the reverb was almost like sugar in your cereal. They use it to sweeten what might not have been the best takes. I'm going to show you the reverbs that I use. This is not a definitive choice of reverbs. I don't have every reverb, but I have enough to get me by. I also do reverb, I guess, in a slightly old-fashioned way. I send the full signal from my tracks to a bus with a reverb on it, and then I use the bus as the volume of the reverb. I think most people these days are doing it the opposite, with your buses at 0 and then using the sends from each track as your additive reverb. I guess I got it from back in the old days when you would ride reverbs on the actual faders. I hope this gives you some inspiration for reverbs that you might want to use yourself. Apparently, 70% of you are not subscribed to the channel. Go on down below and subscribe. Hit the bell button, smash the stuff, you know what to do. So the first thing I use is called a quick Hass, which is a very, very short delay, which has the effect of widening the sound. If you have a mono input, it will widen it. The Quick Hass is a plugin by a company called Ven Audio, and it's free, so just go get it. The next reverb I use is called the Flex Verb, and it's by SSL. Mostly use this reverb on drums. Another one of the plugins I use is the LX480 by a company called Relab, and this emulates the reverb that used to sit in every studio you'd see. They would have it on top of the desk. Valhalla is another company that is absolutely great for reverbs. They have a couple of free ones. One is called the Supermassive, and the other program is called the Free Echo. It says it right on the tin. While not a reverb, I use the H delay by Waves for my ping-ponging stuff. If you find yourself not being able to afford a reverb, the Chromaverb that comes with Logic is fantastic on its own. And my favorite one of all is the Seventh Heaven reverb, which is based on the Bricasti reverb. There are two different versions of the plugin, but the cheaper version doesn't have all the effects, but it has most of them and still has the fantastic reverb sound of the Bricasti. The last but not least is the Space Designer. The Space Designer is fantastic because you can make your own convolution reverbs. So for instance, if you go into a church, under an underpass, somewhere that's got a huge reverb, slap your hands together, bring in the waveform, you can make yourself your own impulse response to go into the Space Designer. And the Space Designer comes with Logic. So there's a beautiful little church in Glen Bay called the St. James Catholic Church. It says it was built in 1870 by Father Thomas McGuinn and first used on the 13th of August, 1879. I didn't feel right giving a really loud clap in the church. This is the clap that I got. Cut it down to where the top of it was. Let the reverb tail go off here. Select and you bring it down onto your Space Designer. Leave it go. The sound that you've recorded with this clap now comes into the Space Designer here. So let me show you what it is. I'll play the drums. And here's the sound of the reverb. I will try and make some better ones. So thanks very much, everybody. I'm so glad you're all here. Thanks to all the new people that are turning up, and we'll see you again next week.